Striking gold, the Mother Lode landscape, the Mother Lode League teams going through week number 4, and we only had 3 games this last week. We have 4 coming up. Amador back on the team play. Amador versus Mesa Verde, final score being 38-17. We both thought Amador was going to win this game, but when we look a little bit deeper, it's a close first half. Mesa Verde came out, was back and forth a little bit. Mesa Verde actually led at the end of the first 10-6. By the half, Amador came back and it was 20-17. Second half didn't go so good for Mesa Verde.
No, that's exact notes I had. Exactly the same thing. I mean, Amador came out, didn't play real well to start with, and then took control late in the second quarter, and then just kind of blew Mesa Verde away towards the end. Kind of expected this to be a closer game than that, really. Mesa Verde had problems statistically moving the football, so Amador, props to them for taking care of things. Improved to 3-1, and we'll discuss that here in a minute. Came into the game 3-1 and improved to 3-1. That's an unusual situation, but it is what it is. Amador got the victory last week and did what they had to do, beat the people on your schedule, and just keep moving forward. I also got to bring in the blue turf for the first time.
That's right. Yeah, I'm excited to go out there this season and take a look at it myself in person. In that game, also at the half, it was 20-17. Amador was in the lead, but then it was 18 second half points unanswered, and Mesa Verde just didn't come out of the locker room apparently for that second half. No answer at all. And Jeremy, you actually won this matchup this week. 34-28 is what you had as the final score. Just a few points off for Amador, quite a bit further for Mesa Verde, and I had 23-19. Think it was going to be so much closer. At the half, I almost had it on the head, but then, just different things happen in the second half with coaches, guessing what the other teams are going to come out to do, make those adjustments, and you hit it on the head.
Yeah, I thought Mesa would score a little bit more in the second half, honestly. I mean, that's kind of where I thought it was going to be. Like I said, I thought Mesa would have at least another touchdown, 24 area. But, Amador, like I said, their defense came out, took control of Mesa Verde, and did what they had to do, got the victory, move on, and then set themselves up for an opportunity to have a successful non-league season after this Friday night.
So you get 2 points on that matchup. I'll get 1. And we can move on to Calaveras, Argonaut being on a bye this last week. Calaveras playing at Big Valley Christian, in which the week before, Somerville played Big Valley Christian. And so Calaveras can look at that matchup. They can see the film, say, hey, I know how Somerville plays. We play them every single year. And they can break it down and say, hey, this is probably our best option for it. Somerville beat Big Valley Christian 37-0 the week prior, and Calaveras getting the edge 41-13.
Yeah, Calaveras' offense came and basically woke up and had an awakening this game. They scored 6 touchdowns. 5 different players scored for the Red Hawks. So that's a good thing. We'll talk about more of that this week. That's kind of my theme this week, is multiple people scoring points. They also had 315 yards rushing, averaged 6.84 yards per carry. So that was a huge thing. And then one big thing, too, is the quarterback, Monzo, went 2 for 2, 39 yards, and 2 touchdowns. First passing touchdown since 2021 for Calaveras High School, according to our great Guy Dossie over at the Calaveras Enterprise. Hit with that nugget. I stole it from him, so there you go, Guy. I appreciate you doing your work. But, so that's a huge thing. They don't throw the football a lot at Calaveras, but when they did, they were effective this week. 2 touchdowns for Monzo. He'd gone the first 79 pass attempts without a touchdown this year. Gets 2 in 2 attempts this week, so good to first see him. He's one of our basketball alumni camp guys too, right. So it's one of those things that we kind of keep an eye on him. And it's head coach Manny Moses' first victory at Calaveras, an alumni coming back, getting the first win there. So congratulations to the Red Hawks. We kind of both thought that was going to happen a little sooner for you, but it worked out to where you got it against Big Valley Christian. And now you get to come home and have homecoming. So that's a whole different set of situations for a first-year head coach to take care of. So Galt comes to town. We'll see Friday night how that plays out.
315 yards of rushing for Calaveras. Meanwhile, the other side, Big Valley Christian, only 224 total yards. passing and rushing. So Big Valley Christian didn't have their best game, but still showed up. They still scored a couple of points. Unfortunately, Calaveras just definitely had the upper hand. 41-13 was the final score. Jeremy, you had 20-8. You said it could go either way, being high scoring or low scoring. You went to the low side, and I went kind of medium, thinking Big Valley Christian would do a little bit more on both sides of the ball, and I had 34-28, which just puts me 2 points closer in total. Yep. So we'll flip-flop on the first two games. So this next game is what it's going to come down to. Sonora at Livingston, the final TVL opponent that Sonora is facing this year before they head into league next week. Sonora going out there, we saw Livingston play Argonaut, I believe, and that one, it was an okay game, and just based on what happened there, we knew Sonora was going to have a good handle on this game. They ended up winning 42-13, but Livingston also found the touchdown 2 times, and not super late in the game either.
No, and that's the thing. Livingston had 2 backs that we kind of talked about a lot last week. Thought they were going to cause some problems, and then they got in the end zone a couple times, which I kind of thought they would. But in the end, Sonora does what Sonora does. They put up 42 points. Seems like almost every week they've been putting up in the 40s. They have 8 players coming in the last week's game that have scored touchdowns this season. Audie Peoples leads the team with 4, so it's a balanced offense, and that's the part that's scary about Sonora. Usually they have one guy that's like, okay, he's our guy, and then there's everybody else. Right now, there's all kinds of guys that can put points on the scoreboard for Sonora, so it's a real difficult thing if you're coming into Sonora trying to play them, and the defense has to adjust to the option, has to be disciplined, and there's guys that can score points from every different position, multiple guys. It's one of those things that I just think Sonora just finds a way to just keep making players and just producing. It's like they got a little factory over there. They just keep popping them out, boom, boom. Again, Sonora does what Sonora does. Now they've been on the road for 3 straight weeks. They get a bye before Argonaut comes to town to start league play in a couple weeks. So I think that's going to be good for Sonora. And again, Sonora, 42 points, kind of everyday thing for them.
Yeah, but then you look at the defensive side, allowing 13 points, and 6 of those points were in the first quarter, and Sonora just doesn't allow that usually. So Livingston getting into the end zone very early in that game is a big tell for what Sonora's defense might be able to allow as they enter league play. That was Livingston's only early score, but then nobody scored in the fourth quarter either. It was 42-13 at the end of the third, in which Livingston got the final score, and that's where it just turned out to be. The final minutes of the fourth quarter just ran down the clock, running clock, and that was it.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, like, I think Sonora probably, again, I didn't get to see the game because we were doing another game. I was doing another game, rather. But 42-6, you kind of, okay, let up a little bit. Livingston gets another touchdown on the board. Is it a big deal? Not really in the grand scheme of things. I think Sonora's loaded on both sides of the ball, and I think they're ready to come back and defend their possible final league championship.
Final score 42-13. I had 48-7, thinking that Livingston was going to find the end zone, which they did, but one more time than I thought. Jeremy, 42 for Sonora, 12 for Livingston. Just that one extra point is what did it for you to just barely miss those extra points this week. Yeah,
I know. It just, it is what it is. Like I said, I kind of thought they'd score twice. Went 1 for 2 in the extra points. I didn't know if they'd go for 2. Depending on the situation. So, yeah, it's 42-13. Not quite there yet. I'm still honing in the techniques.
So at the end of this week, Jeremy, you had 5 points through these 3 games, and I had 4. So you get an edge by 1 point through week 4. But before we get to week 5, of course, we have to thank Meeting Rooms on Demand. You can look at all the different locations to have a meeting room throughout the west side at least. You have Phoenix, Sonora, Las Vegas Central, Henderson, Concord. I'm missing one other one, but that's the bulk of the meeting rooms that you can rent at meetingroomsondemand.com. Go there, easy to rent, rates available hourly or daily. So you have multiple options there, Meeting Rooms on Demand. And now, week 5, the preview. We have one game on bye, that is Sonora, of course, like you mentioned. But starting off, Stonebridge Christian at Amador, in which this is most likely my game of the week. I mean, Stonebridge Christian comes into this. We've seen what they can do the past few years. But then Amador coming off of 2 years where we didn't really see anything, and now making a strong statement at the start. Amador's 3-1, Stonebridge Christian is 5-0, and Amador's looking to give them their first loss.
Yeah, a little bit of housekeeping first. So like we talked about a minute ago, Amador's 3-1. They came into last week 3-1. So how does that work out? So basically, they had gotten the forfeit from Esparta on max preps, and then they decided, hey, no, that's not going to help us at all. We don't need that. It won't help us for playoffs and this and that. So they just said, hey, we're going to take our bye week that week, and they scheduled a game later on in the season against Woodland Christian that wasn't on the schedule originally. So they picked up another game. So yeah, so they went from 3-1 to 3-1 by getting the victory. So a little housekeeping there. I think that's a good idea for Amador. I think it's going to help them in the playoff situation. They get to take on a Woodland Christian team that runs a unique offense, gets them ready to kind of face some teams that they might see in the playoffs. So I think that's a good idea as far as Amador goes. As far as this game, though, Stone Ridge Christian comes in 5-0, like you said. They're led by Mario Perez. He's thrown for 598 yards, 10 touchdowns. They have 4 wide receivers that are over 100 yards receiving. And then that's led on the ground as well by Dejan O'Neill with 69 carries, 757 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Offensively, Stone Ridge Christian is loaded, absolutely loaded. I got some reports from people I talked to this week, and they said, yeah, they're all that. They run a spread offense, which is different than what they've been doing. And they can throw the football around, and their quarterback's a sophomore. So that being said, I think it's going to be a tough week for Amador. I really do. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think Amador, both teams like to throw the football. It could be one of those 3-hour games. In the end, I think Stone Ridge Christian pulls it off 42-21.
All right, and Calaveras played Stone Ridge Christian in the first game of the season, in which Stone Ridge Christian won 28-13. And now here's where you get down into some statistics, right? Calaveras putting up 13 points against the Stone Ridge Christian team, and Stone Ridge Christian only putting up 28 points against the Calaveras defense. So you try to break that down a little and say, hey, Calaveras actually did good against this team. Amador is better in the rankings, better in our eyes, better in teams that they played. So you can assume Amador is going to have a better game. In which, is it 15 points good? I would say so, but at the same time, this is week 1 of the season that we're talking about, in which Stone Ridge Christian changed their offense from what they've been running the past few years, in which they dominated in, now going to that spread, like you had said. And now doing that in week 1 of the season, real game scenario, you're not going to play the best football that you know. I mean, it's going to be okay. You're going to run through some plays, but it's not going to be super in-depth. So looking at that 28-13 score, I do think Amador is going to have a really good game against Stone Ridge Christian. I think Stone Ridge Christian is going to allow the most points that they have so far this season, in which that's going to be 37 for Amador, but Stone Ridge Christian barely beats them out 42-37.
I guess I could see it. I could see this being a high-scoring game. I just feel that Stone Ridge Christian has a little too much offense, and I'm not sure if Amador's quite ready for that. Amador turned the ball over a lot the last time we put them in a big situation against Union Mine, and that didn't work out for us. So I kind of was like, okay, we'll see how this plays out. I think, like I said, I think 42-21, Stone Ridge, somewhere in there. Rooting for Amador, but I kind of feel like it's giving the edge to Stone Ridge.
And that Union Mine loss is the only Amador loss of the season, so that's another thing you can look at. They should probably be 4-0, but that loss to Union Mine was pretty big for them. Now, West, the Wolfpack going to Argonaut. It's homecoming for Argonaut. Argonaut is 1-3, West is 3-1, but they're fairly even in the rankings, in which we know how that can turn out sometimes. We have had a few games throughout the first few weeks that it's neck and neck, just one separation team away, but then it ends up being a blowout. But Argonaut actually has a lead in the rankings by a few extra teams than West does, and West only loss is to Kimball.
Yeah, and then this is one that I kind of went back and forth, and I switched probably 3 times a day when I was looking at this stuff going, okay, which way do I want to play this one? Really, like you said, both teams are even. I don't know how this is going to go. Just to be honest, Argonaut had a bye last week. I think that helps them a little bit. Argonaut's had problems scoring other than the one game where they put some points on the board. So it is really, really hard for me to trust Argonaut right now. So I'm going to go West 21, Argonaut 14.
Okay, and I actually have Argonaut 21-16, so fairly close there. I think with Argonaut having homecoming, and they've had some struggles this season. If they can at least win homecoming, that's going to make a season for them and say, hey, we can win. We made it happen for not only us but for the school as well.
No, absolutely, and a win to this week, like we talked about, propels you into future positives in the regular season or league season. So it could be something that like you said, builds on. They had a week off. They got right. They fixed things. And I could see Argonaut coming out with a win. Like I said, I went back and forth, flipped a coin, asked Magic 8 Ball what it thought, used the randomizer on my computer, and what do you think? And so, I ended up with West 21, Argonaut 14, and the highly sophisticated, picks that we do. I went with that, 21-14.
All right, that's going to be a good one. Hopefully it comes down to the wire like I assume and you assume as well. But now another close game that I have, Galt at Calaveras. Galt 2-2, Calaveras 1-4. We look at the points for these teams. Galt has 89 points scored for the season. Calaveras has 67. Calaveras has 137 points against. Galt has 101. But the situation of the schedules can change that a little bit as well.
Yeah, again, these two, one of them is 1-4, one of them is 2-2. I don't trust either one of those records, really, honestly. So I get rid of that. I looked at the situation and said, okay, which one? It's homecoming, so that kind of adds a little bit more prestige to Calaveras, like we talked about. Coach Moses' first homecoming. So, again, this one I thought was another one of those ones that are difficult. Galt comes in with a rushing game that's just been on point. Cason Jones, 43 carries, 290 yards. He has 4 touchdowns. Hunter Freeman, 45 carries, 268 yards, 2 touchdowns. They've been leading the way for Galt. I just don't know if they can keep it up. And Calaveras' defense has been good, and that's what I think gave me the edge to go with Calaveras. Plus, Calaveras got the big win last week. I think they can build on the momentum. And I have Calaveras winning 28-14, homecoming celebration in San Andreas.
All right, and I've seen Galt play a few times over the years, and I think Galt is a better Gustine. And that's what it looks like to me. I mean, they look similar. They kind of play in a way. And just what I've seen from Galt in the past years, similar style, I think Galt's going to take it 21-14. So it's going to be, a few sparks here and there, and Galt's just going to take it with a touchdown.
Okay.
Galt's closest game also was 14-6 versus Franklin, in which they won that game as well. That was one of their 2 victories. So I think it's going to be another one of those where it's just that one possession changes everything. I
could see that. I mean, I guess Galt, I wasn't impressed with their schedule. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then so that's why I said throw the records out. 2-2 didn't really impress me much. Calaveras is 1-4. We understand that. Like I said, I feel like Calaveras still has the edge here. They're playing at home. It's homecoming. They had a win last week. I think they can just kind of use that, ride that wave up. And hey, it's homecoming. We're going to go for Calaveras. We didn't go for homecoming against Argonaut, so I don't know. It's just like I said, Magic 8 Ball. We asked it. Carl. We asked. All of our sources, and then that's what we came up with. Probably a split decision, but either way, Calaveras 28, Galt 14 is what we came up with.
All right, now Sonora's going to be on bye this week, so no Sonora game, and give them a little rest from the last few weeks being on the road. But Somerville back in play. They went from being at home against Big Valley Christian 2 weeks ago, a bye week, now back on the road, facing against Modesto Christian. Not a far bus ride, but they do have to travel a little bit to the 2-2 team as Somerville rests at 3-1.
Yeah, and Modesto Christian, they lost last week, so they're going to be kind of looking to get back on the winning track, and they got an offense that is absolutely explosive. Okay, I had a chance to talk to some people this week, and they said, hey, if you get to see this quarterback from Modesto Christian, he is the real deal. And I was like, okay, I didn't even ask, but okay, thanks. And then he was just like, yeah, dude, he's legit. I was like, all right. Well, Ross Weidman, 42 of 81, 990 yards passing, 12 touchdowns, and then they were singing his praises all day last week when I talked to him. I'm like, all right. And then they have a receiver too, Jeremiah Bernard. The thing with them is they have really 2 receivers, but one gets most of the action. Bernard gets most of the action. He gets 23 carries, 561 yards, 9 touchdowns. Elijah Cook, the other receiver, 8 catches, 256 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then after that, it's kind of spread out. There's only like a couple guys here and there, not a lot of big numbers. Run game, yeah, not really. I mean, they have a couple guys with 80 yards rushing on the season, but not a real big running team. It's more throw the football around and see what happens. The problem for Somerville is we saw how that worked out against
Dos Palos.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Dos Palos, thank you. They came in and threw the football around, and Somerville could not keep up with the receivers, couldn't do the things, getting pressure on the quarterback. Have they learned from that? Can they put that against Modesto Christian? We'll see on Friday night.
And also the passing game against the Somerville defense in Waterford, they scored their 2 touchdowns in the air from a decent distance as well. So Somerville does definitely have to work on that. One stat that I didn't hear you say with the heavy passing is 245 receiving yards a game, which is very large, in which Modesto Christian, just that number in high school is wild.
Love it. Throw the football. When all else fails, throw the ball.
This is the last game for both teams before they start league, so it's going to be exciting to have a good game before going into some I don't want to say weaker games, but some games that you can assume that Somerville should win just based on previous records of other teams. The best way to gauge Modesto Christian right now is a 37-6 loss. Stonehenge Christian put that on top of them, and that's another team that we look at. Calaveras 28-13, and then Modesto Christian does 37-6. So as the season went on, Modesto Christian just got the better end of Stonehenge Christian. Yeah,
and again, the Modesto Christian thing, you look at them. The big scary part about them for me, if picking them, is they're 3 wins, or 2 wins rather, or teams that are combined 3-10. Okay, so that's not. There's 2 teams that are 0-4, and then 1 team that is 3-1. But you kind of look at those and go, okay, I don't know about that. Okay, so I think Somerville has too much depth, too many weapons on offense to fall into a trap of Modesto Christian. I think Modesto Christian is going to score some points. I have no doubt that Bernard and Cook are going to do their thing and get their yards and possibly a couple touchdowns. But I think the depth and the multiple scoring options for Somerville gives them the advantage in this game.
Modesto Christian about equal in points for and points against. Somerville has scored 100 more points than they have allowed, so that's another thing you can look at. For me, Somerville will take this game 48-13. I know they always want shutouts, and they just try to do it every single week. Waterford, it didn't happen, and the coaches were absolutely mad that they allowed 2 touchdowns against that Waterford team. They said that their defense was playing great, and then the 2 plays that they make mistakes on, that's when they score. And it wasn't on the offense from what they tell me, it was on their own defense. So I think 48-13 is a good tell, but I think maybe Modesto Christian can put it inside one more time just because of their air raid.
You're right, they will. 48-21, that's what I have. See, so yeah, I think Modesto Christian's going to move the football. I think they're going to score a couple points. They'll keep it close for a little bit, but in the end, I think Somerville stretches it out with their depth and, like I said, multiple guys. And don't be surprised if we see a special teams play that swings the game. They've had great returns in the past between Barajas and Hike, and I could see that being a big factor this week as well.
So that does it for the Week 5 previews and score predictions. Stonehenge Christian, Argonaut, Galt, and Somerville. So I'm 2 Mother League teams and then 2 not. I think you're pretty close in there as well. I think you have West, though, winning that game.
Yeah, I got Calaveras and Somerville winning from the Lode, and then Stone Ridge and West.
All right, so we have some discrepancies in the guesses, and I'm just going to get a farther lead on you now.
Yeah, you think so? I told you I'm narrowing the gap. We'll get there.
Yeah,
we'll get there. It's a long season.
It's way too close for comfort here. Any changes in your power rankings?
Not at all.
Okay.
The Max Prep standings has it, Sonora, Somerville, Amador, Argonaut, Calaveras. I think that's the same as I had it last week. I'm going to leave it there. I don't see any big difference there. Amador has a chance to prove us right and get a win against a team that's really good, and that would open some eyes. Again, Argonaut has a chance to upset West, in my opinion, and kind of help themselves move up. If they both win, it could kind of create some situations, I think, in my rankings, but we'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, I think if Amador defeats Stonehenge Christian, it's going to make a big stir of the pot for the MLL, and as they continue, you want to push that Amador game as far off as possible, but you have the week set, and you just have to get ready game by game before you take them on.
Yeah, absolutely, and so Amador, they're building over there. Hopefully they can take care of business against Stone Ridge. We'll see. Like I said, I think that the Stone Ridge is going to come out a little more offense than them. And Argonaut, hopefully the week off helped them get ready for West. That should be an interesting game. I think that's probably going to be the closest game this week. like I said, that one, it's one of those ones I'm back and forth on over.
Is that your game of the week? I have Stonehenge Christian and
Yeah, I'm gonna go with West Argonaut. Argonaut, I put a game of the week once, and they let me down there, but we'll see how that plays out this week. I think this might be a better matchup for them than it was against Wheatland.
Awesome. Well, Somerville Modesto Christian will be broadcast on NorCal Sports TV. You can go there now. You can like, subscribe, comment, just so that it's in your feed. When it comes game time, you can join me there. I'm not sure if Jeremy will be there with me, but
I'm not sure yet how that's going to play out. Yeah.
We'll definitely be there to broadcast the game, though, whether it's me and him or just me, somebody else. I don't know, but make sure you join me there. Jeremy, any last thoughts?
Hey, like I said, it's getting down to league play where things kind of start changing. So, opportunity for some teams to kind of build their playoff resume, and other teams that are struggling to get back on track before league starts. So it's a good time to go out and watch high school football.
Stonehenge Christian Amador, West Argonaut, Galt Calaveras, Somerville at Modesto Christian. Those are the games for this week. He's Jeremy Hurtado. I'm Levi Flores. Thanks for joining us for Striking Gold.